So Margie, I think we could probably get started with our intro.
All righty, guys. Well, welcome everyone to Kids Chance Give Back Better webinar. I'm Margie Mazer. I'm the Executive Assistant for Kids Chance of America, and I'll be your host for this presentation. Today, our topic is thank you. It is the most important message. This is presented by Vicki Burkhart, the Executive Director of Kids Chance of America. Before we get started, I do have a few reminders for you. Please share your name and the Kids Chance state you're representing in the chat box. The chat box is located at the top of the screen. Click on the chat to open this feature up. Any questions you have should be entered in the chat box. We will be sure to take time at the end of the webinar to answer as many questions as we can. With the number of people on the call today, we do have everyone on mute so that we can present the information cohesively. And lastly, our materials from the webinar and recording of the webinar will be made available on the Kids Chance website, also sent to you in a follow-up email. I now will turn this over to Vicki.
Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. They gave me the control of the PowerPoint, everybody. So just bear with us today. So everybody's here for a session on genetic editing, correct? No, we're going to talk about thank yous. So this is one of my favorite subjects, so I'm glad to be here. This touches everybody. Doesn't matter how large or small, how new or old, everybody deals with the old thank you. So donations, whether they come from individuals, businesses, organizations, whatever, is the revenue that we count on to fuel our nonprofits. I just got off of, not too long ago, a finance committee meeting here at Kids Chance of America, and I can tell you for sure, it is the revenue that we need to fuel these organizations. They can arrive in various forms: event fees, partnerships, sponsorships, in-kind services, or simply cash gifts. And I think we all like cash gifts. Some donations are made annually. Some are pledged over a period of years, but all of those who support nonprofits by making charitable gifts are donors, and all donors need to be appropriately thanked. Saying thank you never goes out of style. It never gets old. It's simply good manners. Donors who want to know their contributions, whether they be large donations or small donations, are appreciated and are used for the intended purpose of the donor. Some nonprofit advisors will tell you that formal acknowledgement letters should be sent within 10 days of receiving the donation with a receipt for tax purposes. I will tell you that that's too long for me, and everybody will go, I like to see acknowledgements out within 72 hours of receipt, if at all possible. And I'll tell you why. The thank yous need to be immediate. And often while the gift is still in the donor's mind, it makes sense to them. The quick turnaround also shows the donor that his or her gift is important to you, important enough to take the time to make that thank you as quickly as possible. Acknowledgement, recognition, stewardship are all key elements in what we call donor relations. And that really is defined as a comprehensive effort to ensure that donors experience high quality interactions with our nonprofit organizations that will ultimately foster long-term engagement and investment. The way you say thank you to your donors is probably one of the most important communication pieces you can create. How you recognize their generosity and your plans to keep them engaged with the organization will often mean the difference, I think, between a one-time gift and a long-term relationship. And if you're looking to build sustainable fundraising programs in a sustainable organization, what we're looking for are long-term relationships with our supporters, our donors, our partners, our sponsors. Unfortunately, in too many instances, I've worked with nonprofits that view thanking donors as sort of the afterthought instead of a critical part of the donation process. And that's why I think today we've decided to really dedicate this webinar to the whole concept of thank you. So we're going to cover today, just so I hit all of these points, how thanking donors leads to increased giving, the rule of 7, which is an important part of the whole thank you process, the variety of ways that we can say thank you, Common mistakes made in thanking donors, and there are some common mistakes that I think all of us make. I am no exception and have learned from some of those. And a calendar of thank yous and what that calendar may mean for your program. So thanking donors is key. It's key to increase giving. Thank yous are also an opportunity to build a relationship with a donor that would have the potential to catapult into not only additional giving, but hopefully into larger gifts. With so many competing nonprofits in almost every community across the country, in every state, and even in the communities, it's important to try to differentiate yourself, your organization from others, and begin to build what we call donor loyalty. Why is thanking a key to successful donor loyalty? How does it really lead to increased donations? One of the things I think we like to keep in mind is that the thank you portion really completes the giving cycle. It's not an outcome, it's certainly not an afterthought, but it's part of the giving cycle. You identify partners, sponsors, donors, you cultivate those donors, you solicit them, you involve them, and you thank them. It's all part of the giving cycle. So, and a critical part of that cycle. It often provides the gift receipt. So in many cases, a thank you can also provide a gift receipt. Some people do it in a combination in their letters, etc. And we all know from previous webinars that the IRS really requires us to receipt those gifts and to utilize some IRS language along with that. So thanking also incorporates that, function of gift receipt. Thank yous help us move from what I call the transactional to the relationship. Transactional meaning somebody's out on your website, they're hitting the donate now button, they're saying, yes, I'd like to give $1,000 to Kids Chance of Utah, and it sort of moves through. The thank you piece then lets you take that sort of mechanism and move it into a relationship. It provides you with an opportunity to reach out to that donor specifically, to talk about that gift and the impact of that gift. So you move a little bit from just that transaction piece of a gift to, the start of building a relationship. Thank yous allow yourself to position your nonprofit. And by position, I mean, it allows you to tell a little bit of the story. Utilize that space, whether it's in an email, a written letter, a video, whatever, to talk about why your organization's important. And even more importantly, why gifts to the organization and a gift from this particular donor is important to you. It helps you sort of position your organization in the eyes of donors, partners, sponsors, volunteers, so they understand that you wouldn't be able to do what it is that you're doing without their support and without those donations. And finally, I think thanking is key to building donor loyalty, and donor loyalty is a huge step in achieving ultimate sustainability for your organization. And we've talked about sustainability a lot this year. We had a whole keynote really focused on building sustainable organizations. And that certainly starts with the giving cycle, and the thank you piece of that is an extremely important piece to building donor loyalty. And you want loyal donors who will continue to support you with gifts, with participation, with interaction, because ultimately that's going to lead you to a sustainable organization. Stewardship's the core component in a great fundraising strategy. Stewarding donors, I think simply put, is what a nonprofit does from the time that first gift is made until that donor no longer has a relationship with the organization. And our hope is that they always have or continue to have a relationship with the organization. Stewardship after a donation is very synonymous with cultivation before the donation. The process of the organization is growing a relationship with that donor. So while we cultivate people before we ask them for a gift, we also have that sort of stewardship after the thank you, which continues that relationship. And it builds it. And I think levels of engagement that deepen relationships with our donors. In a for-profit world, I think most of us understand, or at least those of us that are dealing in the for-profit world, that our best customers are often our current customers. I hear that a lot, even when I'm dealing with my own business. The same is true of a nonprofit. It takes far fewer resources, whether that be time, money, effort, volunteers, to renew or upgrade a current donor than it does to find, cultivate, solicit, and close a new prospect. A large part of that stewardship is simply thanking your donors. And we thank our donors a minimum of 7 times. So the rule of 7, and I'd like to sort of talk about this a little bit. You'll hear this from experts in the nonprofit world, recommending that you connect with your donor 7 times during the year, so that when you're ready to make an ask that following year or at renewal time, the donor is confident in your mission, in your leadership. They've got information about how you're operating your programs. They have a better picture of the organization, so they're really ready and prepared to be solicited. The simple yet effective concept, and we call it actually the rule of 7s. Thank a donor 7 times. You say that's a lot. It is a lot. It takes some time. But I think if you're really interested in building your fundraising program, you'll find a way to do that. And sometimes look at that first and move your way back to the solicitation. So often when I'm working with nonprofits, we spend a lot of time building out the solicitation process for donors. And I often have them start at the end of the giving cycle and talk about what that's going to look like in thank yous. How are they going to roll out? How are you going to make sure that gift is acknowledged 7 times, and then start to move into the solicitation and the cultivation and the identification, and where you start with the donor. Sometimes if you reverse it, you make sure that you don't miss that really important piece of the program. So let's talk about 7 ways we can thank a donor or a volunteer. A thank you note or letter. Nothing outrageous about this. Thank you note is the first step in building the relationship with the donor, and it's often the first time a donor gets an impression of what your fundraising culture is like. So it's very, very important. If you're using a form letter, and form letters are totally appropriate. I don't want to dismiss that, because I think in some cases people need to have some type of format, but it never hurts to include a handwritten note on the letter with some kind of personalization that makes it just a little bit more from you. Be sure to use the opportunity to reinforce your mission, why it's deserving of the donor's support, and how you intend on using the generous contribution that you've just received. Here's a letter from the Children's Residential Services of Greater Boston. I thought that they did a really nice job with their letter. They talked, first of all, thanks to you, Michael and his sister Janet celebrated Michael's 9th birthday with cake and balloons in a safe and loving place. They are no longer scared and love having their very own room. So we're talking about the Children's Residential Services here. They start with a nice vignette that makes you feel really good about the fact that you have allowed and enabled Michael to do something good. Thank you for your recent gift of $100. You want to make sure that you have the gift amount in the letter to the Children's Residential Services of Greater Boston, your willingness to help displaced children in our community weather the crises in their lives makes all the difference for children just like Michael and Janet. Okay, so we've now wrapped the mission about that into the letter. Thanks to you, we have provided 250 children just this year with a place to live, learn, and feel safe. So they put some parameters and benchmarks about, with your donations, we are able to serve this many people. Your donation will also help us in the future to purchase new computers for the kids over the next 6 months. So you're looking outward. So not only has your donation helped us serve 250 kids now, we're also going to be able to look forward and help those in the future. We would love to give you a tour so that you can meet some of our staff and some of our kids who are with us now. So they like to, extend an invitation. Maybe that would be an invitation to an event, invitation to a program. Maybe that would be a simple, invitation to a testimonial for one of your scholarship recipients. Don't hesitate to contact us with contact information in there. We would love to keep you in the loop with our emails and newsletters. Make sure that you sign up. Again, thank you for all you do for our kids. You are a part of their lives too. Very memorable last line. To me, I think that's a relatively good, well-written, and well-served thank you note. Thank you calls. So thank you phonathons with volunteers and even student recipients, I think, is a great way to express your gratitude to donors directly. It also gives them an opportunity to learn more about your organization and the good things that you and your Kids Chant group are doing. Most of all, it puts them in direct touch with you, your volunteers, your student recipients, the actual reason for why they're giving. You see student thankathons being very popular among colleges and universities, especially when they're reaching out to alumni. We love to talk to students who are following in our footsteps. They're much less threatening than actual phonathons, because rather than soliciting gifts, you and your volunteers are actually thanking donors. Nothing is better than surprising somebody on the phone with a great big thank you. So, I often say, create a simple script, provide some coaching to your volunteers, put out some great snacks, a little bit of pizza, and you've got a great thank you-thon underway. Number 3 in the rule of 7 is websites and newsletters, or e-newsletters. A great way to highlight all the good your organization is doing in the community. It's also an opportunity to highlight program success stories and to acknowledge your donors. Thanking donors publicly not only impacts the donor, it also serves as an incentive to other prospective donors, especially those that want to be part of the leadership circle here in Feeding America. This applies not only to individuals, but also to corporate and foundation donors as well. Be sure to include the branding wherever possible. One of the things I think you want to enable your supporters to do is to co-brand with you. So as you can see here, that Feeding America, or the Food Bank of Santa Barbara, has done a nice job in really putting out the leadership circle and including that branding from some of their major supporters. Consider doing a donor spotlight in your newsletter. Those of you who may or may not follow the Kids Chants of America Chronicle, you've seen that we've been spotlighting our partners in the monthly Chronicle. It's a great way not only to say thank you, but it also provides them with some visibility and some, I think, sort of extra momentum as some of our valued supporters. Easy to do, easy to accomplish. If you have a newsletter or a website, you're set and ready to go. So number 4 in our 7 is thank you videos. And for those of you who attended the video session during the national conference, you learned about the impact videos can have in delivering your message. Today, even more than ever, I think we're finding that nonprofits are using videos to reach their audiences at much greater frequency. For building a strong video, I will just refer you to the conference session on building videos from Julia Cruz. She did a great job, went through all the aspects of doing a video, really made it seem, even to me, who is technically deficient, relatively easy. For today, I wanted to share an example of what I believe is a great donor video. Here's the Nature Conservancy. And please, somebody let me know if we don't hear this.
No, Vicky, we're not hearing it. I'm not hearing it. I don't think anybody else is either. We're seeing it, but we're not hearing it.
Hang on. So let me see if I can share. Yeah, I gotta, hang on a second. I will fix it. I don't know that I'm going to be able to fix this for you guys. I don't
Okay,
see
hold
the,
on.
unless you can do it from your end, Margie. I don't have any controls.
And this
We had
went-
this problem yesterday, folks. Sorry.
It's not letting me hit your button. I'm so sorry. Hold on a second.
Nope.
It won't even let me hit the play. I'm so sorry. I don't know how we can.
Okay, well then unfortunately, let's just move through. If you have an opportunity to go back and look at the video once we're finished the session, everybody, the videos are always posted in the Resource Center. This particular thank you, I sort of came upon it while I was doing some research on videos and thank you videos. They did a really, really nice job. And in many ways, it reminded me of Kids Chance of America, because they went from state to state and country to country, thanking their donors for what their generosity had provided in nature in those particular areas. And I think it's worth a look if you can go back. Sorry about that. We had this, our video encryption is just not working. Let's move on to number 5, birthday cards. And birthday cards celebrate the donor, not the donation. So it's one of the reasons why I really like bringing in something like a birthday card, because, you know, it lets your donors know that we actually care about them, not just their money. This is an easy thing to do, and the sentiment goes a long way. I know some organizations that actually develop their own birthday cards using their brand, their logo, you know, a little bit about their mission and history, or they put something very timely on the card that's reflective of the organization. Others just simply buy generic birthday cards that can be signed or signed by a group of the board and dropped in the mail. Have fun with it. Either way, the act of remembering the birthday sends a really strong message. It lets people know that you're actually paying attention to something about them personally. Invitation to a special donor recognition event. And again, this is number 6 in our list of 7. So we've got down to 6. You know, new donors may not know a lot about your programs and services, so inviting them to events is a great educational opportunity to tell your story. Both large scale or more intimate events can work well. The important thing is that your donor sees your programs in action. In these sort of opportunities, it allows you to get to know the donor better, find out what programs your nonprofit are important to your donor, how they came to your organization, what motivated them to make a gift. Plus, I think it also opens up the avenues for getting to know their families, their hobbies, their interests. When you're at an event, you're seated at a table, you're mingling around with a drink. It's a great way to get to know a little bit more about your donor, and it will begin to sort of, I think, garnish that long-term relationship with them. Host a cultivation or recognition event. That's what I think is happening here. We're having an appreciation luncheon in honor of you as a donor. It's easy to do. It doesn't have to be a luncheon. It can be a late afternoon cocktails. It can be something that you do in conjunction with another event. It's a way to just let your donors know that they're important, and you give them an opportunity to come together. It also gives you an opportunity to recognize them a little bit more publicly, depending upon the event and the venue that you have. So number 7 is something that we can all do, and I put it in here, which is really an introduction to a scholarship recipient. This is very specific to Kids Chance in this, rule of 7, but I think it's a great way to thank donors. In fact, from my years with Kids Chance, which go back to 2001, I will tell you, I think most donors, most supporters are most excited when they have an opportunity to talk directly to or to meet a scholarship recipient. I think we've all come to realize that our recipients really become our greatest asset. They're the reason that we as an organization exist, and I think our donors just really love to meet them. So whether it's a letter, whether it's a testimonial that you can provide to them, whether it's a phone call or even an opportunity to meet them in person, I think, number 7 is an introduction to a scholarship recipient or recipients that we can do. I know in some cases I've worked with organizations that have individual scholarship programs where we've encouraged relationship building between the donor and the scholarship, where letters are written. In some cases, breakfasts and lunches are happening. So there's some introduction, I think, to the scholarship recipient, which will go a long way. So that's the 7 that I had put aside for you, but there's certainly other things that we can do. Other ideas for creative thank yous, since you've got to have 7, so you've got to come up with 7 that you can do. Send a welcome package. So a welcome package, I think, can include anything from some of your testimonials, some of your published material, some of your marketing material, a nice letter from the president or the board, an annual report if you have one, current scholarship statistics, anything, again, that makes them understand the organization a little bit more. Send anniversary cards, just like birthday cards, anniversaries, but it could be any kind of anniversary. It can be the anniversary of your first gala. It can be an anniversary of their donation. It can be an anniversary that they're celebrating at home with a loved one. Again, it's just an opportunity to sort of call out the personal donor beyond the donation a little bit more. Social media call outs. This is always a great way, especially when you're talking about partners and sponsors, to thank them publicly in a way that gets some mileage, not only for you and your organization and your donor, but also for them. I have an organization that does Spotlight Fridays with a lot of their sponsors and partners. So, there's a social media post and outreach every Friday that has to do with one of their donors. Distribute photo books. This is especially nice after major events. So if you're doing a major event where, photos are being taken and or collected, putting together a little photo book is nice to give. We did a little photo collage at the end of the national conference this year. If you're able to do something like that for people who may not have attended but would love to be, avail themselves to some of the faces and some of the activities that happen, that's a great way to do it. Personal email or phone call from an executive director or a board member. Again, elevating the importance of the donor by virtue of having an executive director or a board president reach out personally, I think is a great way to show thanks. And I think, gets the attention of your donors, lets them know that you're thinking about them. Be aware of and recognize milestones in your donor and donor families' life. We've talked about birthdays, anniversaries, children's graduation dates, the birth of a new child, somebody who is moving. There are a lot of things to recognize. And again, back to that concept of talking about the donor and doing something personal for the donor, not just the donation, I think goes a long way. So look at those milestones. Send something unique about your organization or your state. I don't know whether it's, a coffee cup or something that has your logo on it or a student testimonial. We were sending out cups to our speakers as thank you gifts from Kids Chance, something that, again, reminds them of the organization, something that they'll be using. I always like to have sort of unique gifts that they'll be using, something that maybe is unique to you or unique to the state that they'll feel really good about. But I think sometimes a unique gift can be a nice recognition event as well. Use holidays to recognize donors with special emails. I mean, certainly it goes well beyond Thanksgiving, but there's great things that you can do around holidays in, just general e-blasts that can go out to all of your donors. When you're thanking 7 times, it doesn't mean that thank you has to be individual thank you to each and every donor. Sometimes you do it en masse with all the groups. Annual reports and president's letters. I don't have it listed here, but I think it's another great way to reach out, especially to special donors or larger donors. We did it this year through Kids Chance of America to all of our major national partners. Our annual report is usually done digitally, but for the partners, we actually printed the reports and sent them out with a personal letter from the president. That, again, is a thank you activity that can roll into your 7. So finally, any solicitation or renewal outreach, whether that is a renewal for a partnership or an annual giving renewal or even an event sponsorship, make sure you begin that overture with a very significant and heartwarming thank you. And sort of remember that you really can't thank donors enough for what they're doing. As we say, a sincere, unique thank you can help establish a strong bond between you and your donors. But even the well-intended stumble into some no-nos when it comes to thanking donors. Been there and have done that. Let me share some common mistakes that we've all made in our attempts to acknowledge donors. A delayed response. Your thank you should get out the door 72 hours, if at all possible, period, no arguments. People will tell you in some cases that they don't care, it doesn't matter, it can be a month, whenever you get to it, don't believe them. Timely follow-up matters a lot. Misspellings. You absolutely need to be sure that you're spelling the donor's name correctly and everything else in the letter, if possible. It sounds like a simple thing, but I'll tell you, there's no excuse for getting the names wrong. Again, have done that myself. We're moving too fast. We don't have all the information. It can be careless. It can offend a donor. Enough said about that. Failing to personalize the salutation. You don't want to be sending all of your communications to your donors by, dear friend. Yes, we hope that there are friends, and yes, we do use dear friends a lot, but personalization matters. In fact, according to the research that I found out online, 71% of our donors feel more engaged with nonprofits when they receive content that's personalized. It's easy to do these days with mail merge programs, but it does take some time. And I realize that the more personalization you do, the more time it often takes. If you don't have the full name, contact and ask the donor. Anybody who's been working with me will know that when something comes across to me that says to whom it may concern, we typically go back and call the vendor, the donor, the initial paperwork that we get to make sure that we find out who the person is that we actually need to thank. Personalization is the first step in building that relationship, so don't miss the opportunity to do that in some of your thank yous. Yawn-inducing or repetitive content. Yawn-inducing content is sort of that, on behalf of our organization and the entire board of directors, we want to take a large opportunity to thank you. Believe it or not, I had a couple of letters come across my desk that actually started that way. So we've taken that out completely. You want to start to tell a story. Go back to the letter from the Children's Residential Services. Start to see yourself feeding some information into that level of format. Give them a little vignette. Make it something they want to read. Make it memorable so that they remember. And as you're working with gift acknowledgements, be sure that you are revising that thank you letter at least annually, and if not, twice a year. What you don't want to do is you don't want a donor, whether that be a partner, a regular individual donor, a sponsor, etc., to get the same stale letter 10 years in a row. You want to make sure that, it's timely, it's reflective of whatever's happening today, and that you've given it some time. Neglecting to mention something the donor asked you to do, and this sort of falls into the special request category. This may mean something like a donor who requests that they remain anonymous. Your thank you letter should reflect that. Or if he or she has earmarked a gift for a particular purpose, then you want to see that noted in the thank you letter. If they've asked for pledge reminders, you're going to want to make sure that that's articulated in the thank you letter. They want to hear that you're going to take care of that. Donors want to know that you're listening, that not only did you grab the check and deposit it, but you also read the note that they sent along, and you've acknowledged that in your thank you note. And then missing the impact of the gift. And I think in a lot of cases, we're so much trying to get that letter out in 72 hours that we sometimes miss an opportunity to really let donors know the true impact of their gift. They want to know that we needed the gift. They want to feel good about the fact that their donation is going to be put to work to solve the problems of your organization, to meet that mission. Don't forget to let donors know how that impact is going to be spelled out in your organization. I think it's one of the biggest things that we can do to foster donor loyalty, and certainly to foster repeat giving, is to make them feel that they're making an impact. We could not do this without you. Your gift has made an impact. So now we have some ideas for those 7 thank you touch points. So I gave you plenty of ammunition here. You should be able to come up with 7 different ways that you can thank your donors. How do you manage that process? I typically recommend that you put it in some kind of thank you calendar. So again, bear with me. This is sort of a monthly calendar where you get a number of opportunities. But January, think about a Happy New Year message. It's a great time for a letter from your president or something that sort of kicks off the year. Maybe February is a donor's birthday. March, you make some thank you calls and have a thank you-thon. It's cold, it's ugly, nobody's doing anything in March, they're home, great time to reach out. Recognize your donors at your annual gala, whenever that may be scheduled. Spotlight a donor on social media. Maybe May becomes Spotlight Donor Month. Send a message announcing new scholarship recipients. That's something everybody can do, I think, to your donors, which would be much appreciated. And again, would link your donors to the product that they're supporting, which are the students and the student scholarships. Provide an end-of-year report to donors. That does not have to be in-depth, glossy, charts and graphs and pie chart kind of report. It could be a nice, 2-page letter that just neatly outlines your successes of the year, where you were able to meet benchmarks, maybe some of your scholarship statistics, a little bit of what you submit to us in that profile every year would go a lot into an end of year report to your donors. Do a volunteer appreciation breakfast or luncheon or cocktail reception or happy hour, something where you can actually appreciate folks. Send a student testimonial with your thank you and include a message. Invite to a special donor recognition event. I think that's always really important. And to the degree you can link it on to an event that you're already doing, it becomes a little bit more cost effective and sometimes, addresses 2 birds with 1 stone, because you get the donor, the benefactor at the special reception. You also get them at the larger event. Thanksgiving, we talked about holidays. Thanksgiving is a great time to show thanks to donors because it is the time that we give thanks. And of course, the end of year giving in December, you should be reaching out to your donors in some ways to thank them for everything that they've done during the year and to remind them that the year is coming to a close and they may want to make sure that they get their gift in before December 31st. Hopefully I've provided with at least one new idea or one good idea that you can take back to your organizations in practice. The rule of 7 is a really good one, but realistically, if that's too much for you right out of the gate, try something quarterly. If you can come up with a way to do something special for your donors in a quarterly basis, I think you're really going to be sort of set out in the right direction. And that thank you calendar will just begin to grow over the years. So I'd be anxious to hear anything from state organizations, other ways of thanking donors that you have seen be really successful. Just throw that information into the chat box and share it with everybody else who's on the phone. I'm always looking for some new ideas, so let it roll. And any questions, I guess, Margie, people should put into the chat box.
Absolutely. Please put your questions. We're ready for it. And Vicki, if you want to try, we can see if we can play the video.
I don't even know how to get exactly back to that, Margie.
I know how to do that. I can get us there.
Well, if you want to do that, feel free. I'm not going there. We'll end up somewhere we don't want to be.
At the Nature Conservancy, we recognize that our work would not be possible without your help.
Because of you, in my city, we will have more and better water quality for our future generations.
Because of you, I'm helping children make a personal connection with the natural world.
Thanks to you, I help to maintain healthy forests in the volcanic chain of Guatemala.
Thanks to you, I am able to work with rural communities to protect Africa's remaining wildlife.
Because of you, we protect indigenous lands in the Amazon basin.
With your support, we're working to restore and protect over 1 million acres of forest in northern Arizona.
Thanks to you, I'm spreading the message of environmental education to the students in Hong Kong.
Thanks to you, I get to protect wetlands in New York City.
Because of you, I get to work on restoring America's forests.
Thanks to you, I get to make a difference in Australia.
Thanks to you, I get to protect a coast I have loved all my life.
Thanks to you, I get to work in Colorado's great grasslands.
Thank you for making it our job to protect the planet we all call home.
So thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for your support. New England thanks you.
Nevada says thank you.
Obrigada pelo seu apoio. Gracias.
Thanks.
We can't thank you enough.
It wouldn't be possible without you. I thank you, the birds thank you, the community thanks you, and the Nature Conservancy thanks you for all your continued support.
Wow, love that.
You know, wouldn't that make you feel good getting something like that? I really do.
That is awesome. I love it. Actually, Vicki, we do have some questions, so I'm gonna shoot them to you. Thank you to Laurie from Kid Chance in Massachusetts. Her question is, do we still need to send year-end letters for tax purposes if in fact we sent the thank you as you outlined, you sent the receipt in the initial thank you?
No, as long as you send a receipt for the gift, even if you incorporate that receipt piece into your acknowledgement letter, you're good to go. There's no reason to have to send a second letter.
Awesome, awesome. Another question is, there are different types of donors. Is the process different or is it the same for different donors?
Well, there's different kinds of donors. So, you know, corporate acknowledgements and corporate thank yous might look a little different than what you might do for an individual. But if you really think that through and you think through the 7 things that we really put out there, you know, most of that would transcend whether it's a corporation, a foundation, or an individual. I think I often see people do a little bit of different things in thank yous have to do with gift amounts. So, you know, if you have somebody who's giving you $1 million in endowment support, perhaps some of that thank you and recognition is a little different than the $25 donation that's coming in through PayPal. But in any case, whether it's the $1 million or the $25, we really want to make sure that we thank everybody 7 times.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm just typing to make sure we don't have any other questions. I do have one more question for you, Vicki, and want to tell everybody that's listening, please, if you have a last minute question, let us know. How do you handle multiple gifts throughout the year from the same donor? They may be donating a couple times in the year.
Well, that's where you have to be really, really careful with your acknowledgement process, especially anything printed in a letter. And you heard me talk a little bit about making sure that you're updating your acknowledgement letters. We have in some of the organizations I work with and in Kids Chance, we have people who do monthly donation, etc. So we're receiving those gifts, but we really try to make sure that we change the acknowledgement letter a little bit depending upon the nature of the gifts and how often it comes. In some cases, when you have a pledge, someone says, I'm going to give you $1,000, but I'm going to pay it over 12 months. You will acknowledge that gift, that $1,000, and receive that $1,000, and just give them some kind of notification that their payments are arriving. So you really have to sort of question that, but realize that, you know, the question is a good one, because many times I will see more than one gift come from a particular donor. And what you want to be careful of is that you're not sending the exact same acknowledgement letter back, that it really should, again, be personalized and be reflective of whatever time frame that you're in.
Absolutely. Yes, great advice. So that's all the questions we have. If there are any others, please type those in the chat box. So in wrapping up, I do want to remind everybody, you will get an email. You'll, with the email, you'll have a survey. We really hope you can provide some feedback for us on this webinar. And with that survey and email, you'll have a link to the recording, any resources we shared today, and definitely that video. We're going to try to find a way to tease that out, Vicki, so that people can really use that video as a training video. It was perfect with this content. Also, I'd like to remind you to please visit our Kids Chance of America website. There is just a ton of resources on our website, and really would like you to check that out. So
And
next,
Cheryl,
yes.
Cheryl, not to interrupt you, but just so everybody knows, I did put in the folder a copy of my notes so that people can have the benefit of seeing what I talked about as well as what was on the PowerPoint. So
Also, so that's a little added bonus. We don't usually get that. That is a little extra prize today. So Margie and I will make sure that we share that, because that will really help you get inside Vicky's head and really make sure you got those points. So thank you, Vicky. I would like to share next month's webinar topic. We will be convening again on Tuesday, June 15th. It'll be empower your board members to become your brand ambassadors. That will be the topic. So really, when you think about it, your board members are the leaders of your organization, which means one of their main jobs is to increase awareness about Kids Chance. So as a brand ambassador, they can help spread the word through their presence on social media, websites, virtual events, and other networking opportunities, as well as in their role as with their companies. Members of the Community Engagement and Marketing Committee will outline what it means to be a good brand ambassador and provide the tools to make it easy. So I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about that next webinar. And with that being said, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you so much, Vicki. Always a pleasure. You'll see all the comments. I know you can't see them as you're presenting, but many people thank you. Thank you for your comments. And one gal said, I took lots of notes and I have a board meeting today, so I'm going to share this at my board meeting.
There you go.
So thank you, Vicki. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next month, June 15th.
Thanks, everybody.